Hello, my name is Monica Naples, and I'm a tea blender and owner of RT, a local loose leaf tea company on the Sunshine Coast. I'm here today, sponsored by Sunshine Coast Council's Living Smart program, to introduce to you some plants that you can grow in your garden to add to your daily cuppas or to create your own blends. As you may know or may not know, a lot of the major tea brands sold in grocery stores contain a lot of plastic either in their packaging or in their tea bags. And that is something that we want as a community to cut back on, and for your health purposes, we don't want those in our teas. I'm in the garden today of Robin Cook, a kitchen garden teacher. She's going to show me some plants that she has growing, and we will discuss ways that she can use those in her teas. Good morning, Robin. How are you?
I'm fabulous, Monica. Thanks for coming to my garden.
Oh, thanks for the invitation.
It's just wonderful to show you around and have a look. And I mean, you're the tea blender. So I've got the plants, but I don't necessarily have those skills in blending them. So I'm really excited to hear about that.
Oh, great. Well, I'm excited to share that knowledge with you.
Yeah, so we've got the lemon myrtle tree here.
Oh, beautiful.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
It is. It's one of my favorite plants to deal with, actually, to blend with. And do you use it yourself?
Yeah, I do. I think my favorite is in as an iced tea. And I like it with the rosella calyx. So I dry the rosella and I use it fresh, the lemon myrtle fresh. Is that what you would do? Use it fresh?
I dry mine just because in my tea blends I have to have that in stock and ready to go. So generally I'll do a bit of a harvest every now and again and put that in my dehydrator. And again, it has such a concentrated lemon flavor, but drying it makes it even more pronounced. But yeah, it's definitely something to use fresh, as well as with the calyxes. I haven't tried that blend yet. So
you'll have to give it a go.
I will, because I do a hibiscus and mint with strawberry gum. Oh. Strawberry gum, I don't know if you have that one, but that is definitely a really nice bush tucker plant as well. Beautiful. It has a bit of that gummy flavor, but it's gorgeous fruitiness to it as well. So great for iced teas. Yeah. But lemon myrtle.
So how much would you, if you were to put some in a teapot for 3 people, how much would you choose?
Oh, like there's no real science to it. Again, it's quite a concentrated lemon compound in there, way beyond lime and lemon. So we're really talking maybe a handful, like a couple of maybe 10 leaves, and you can strip them off of the stems and then add that to your water. And you can add it in, my favorite, actually, this is one of my blends, using Daintree tea with lemon myrtle. And that's just such a beautiful blend because the lemon myrtle really shines. Daintree tea is quite mild in its flavor and not a very strong black tea. So this one really comes out more pronounced and gorgeous, but also with green tea or just, completely herbal without any caffeine in it. So you can add a few more leaves as well. It just depends on your taste, and some people aren't a lemon lover, but I am.
It doesn't matter that they're a bit chewed either.
Well,
does it? I mean,
I wouldn't put those in just because in my botanical knowledge somewhere years back, I did read something about that because you will have some sort of chemical reaction going on with that, because as you may or may not know, the leaves are actually producing all of these compounds to ward off their predators. So that's where we get caffeine from tea. And citral is not necessarily, I don't think, an insecticide kind of compound, but there could be other compounds that it may be producing.
Because as a result of being chewed.
Yes.
So if they're producing a compound that wards off the insect, then the leaves that have been chewed are more likely to have that in higher concentrations.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's fascinating.
It is. Plants are just amazing. They have their own defense systems. I mean, that's where we get medicine from as well, because they're producing these compounds to survive from and to ward off their predators, but yet they're so valuable to humans. And just like I said, with caffeine, that's
where that comes from.
from.
Okay, so probably in that you're going to pick off the ones that have been chewed
Yes,
and just save the ones. And
Yep.
it's not because they don't look good, because
No.
there's that whole, ugly fruit kind of thing,
No.
which we're happy to eat.
No. Nothing having to do with that. It's more.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's more of that, the chemical constituents that come across. But yes, happy to take these inside, and we'll demonstrate a bit later how to dry them.
Fabulous. Thank you.
And I see you have a gorgeous lime tree there.
We do, and it's quite large, and it's quite old now. It would be about maybe 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
And it's a good
Incredible.
producer, and it's an abundant producer. So each season we'll get so many limes that really you've got to think of other things to do with them.
Yes.
Yeah, rather than just having them as fresh limes.
Yes. And so you dry them, obviously, and you preserve
some years
them.
I've sliced them into rounds and dried them that way, and they are absolutely
Beautiful.
superb.
So Robin, you have such a beautiful garden, a bit of a forest environment. You're bound to have some turmeric around here?
Yeah, I put turmeric in all sorts of places because it does like that forest floor environment, and it's a bit of a set and forget plant here on the Sunshine Coast.
So really this, like you said, it's a perennial. You can harvest it anytime you want. You're not going to do any damage to the plant.
That's right, and you can see that in the winter, the growth really, the leaf growth really dies down, and that's perfectly normal. We're not in the tropics, so you're going to see some winter dieback.
Like seasonality to it.
Yeah, and it doesn't
yes.
affect the rhizomes.
The rhizomes at all. So I've just dug a little bit of the, not even digging deep into the soil, just brushing away, and there it is. There's that rhizome there, and easy to just snip off a bit. And again, we're not doing any damage to the plant because, like we said, it is a rhizome, and rhizomes are just underground stems, and more plants are just going to start growing from the eyes on that. So it's really so easy. Dig it up, harvest it, dry it, and then you can start using it. Another one of my favorite herbs is ginger. I use that in so many of my blends. And I see you have that growing right here as well.
It's another one of those fantastic set and forget plants that you can grow so easily here on the Sunshine Coast.
So basically you're scraping away the soil, the topsoil, the leafage, and again, it's the rhizome that you're wanting. Well, we'll take this inside and show how we can dry that. Now, we have toured Robin Cook's garden, and we have actually harvested a few different items. Some grapefruit here and some limes, a bit of ginger and turmeric. And so either you can use those ingredients straight away fresh, or you can dry them in a dehydrator like I have. Okay, let's start processing the ingredients that we just harvested. I'll start now with the lime. What you'll need for this is a potato peeler and your lime. With all of your ingredients, you want to thoroughly wash and dry them before you start cutting in order to process that in the dehydrator. So you'll just easily, like a potato, just start peeling a bit of the peel away. And if you can try to get it as long of a peel as you can from top to the bottom. And we'll do this the same with the grapefruit as well, and any citrus you can do this with. Now we'll cut the ginger and the turmeric into slices. So again, we're just wanting to make some thin slices, not too thick, because that will take a bit longer to dry. So this is the turmeric, and then with the ginger, we'll do some nice slices there. When you're in your garden and you see you have quite a number of rhizomes that you can harvest, go ahead and harvest that and then process that straight away, because the quicker you that you dehydrate after harvesting, the more you're going to preserve the beneficial elements and the flavor of that. The more thick the ingredients are, the longer it's going to take. So it's just, again, trial and error, and see how you go with that. You will know when something is dry, actually, when it is quite brittle and falls away easily off of the stem. So another thing that we harvested is our lemon myrtle. And that, again, you can leave those on the stem. And this is a bit of a thicker leaf, and it has a bit of a coating to it. So that will actually take a bit longer than, say, your peppermint and your spearmint to dry. I'd say probably about 7 hours. Now that we've gone through the steps of harvesting and dehydrating your ingredients, I will touch a bit on blending. Now, blending is a bit of an art. There is some science behind it as well. But to be honest, it just takes a lot of practice and trial and error. Some equipment that's necessary for blending, bowls that you will want to be blending in, and I have different sizes here. Some other things for what you will be using the process is a mortar and pestle. And I have a Mezzaluna blade, which I love that, but also like a food processor is good. So ideally the ingredients need to be of similar size. And when you're working with the ingredients and adding them to black tea or green tea or even white tea, the tea is going to show you which size you'll actually need to make those other ingredients to, because if some ingredients are larger than others, they will settle out of the blend, and that's called deblending. So when if you make a blend and you take a teaspoon of that to make a cuppa, it's not actually going to be representative of all of the ingredients there. So this is about the size of Daintree tea, very, very small. It's almost the size of tea that goes into tea bags. If you compare that to very unprocessed black tea, a Ceylon tea, and these leaves are quite whole, they're a bit broken, but that's going to lend to you having larger ingredients when you're mixing. And again, that's the same with green tea. You have some green tea that's quite small itself, but there's also some that hasn't been processed as much. And this Cincha tea is a representative of that. So again, these tea leaves are quite, there are some large ones, but there are some also broken ones. So that's something that is going to help dictate how much you will process your ingredients. So now I'll demonstrate making a blend from some of these ingredients. So another aspect that you will need when you're actually blending is a scale. What I have here is a really precise scale, measures to the 100th of a gram, but any kitchen scale that measures the gram is fine. So some of the ingredients that I'll be using are my green tea, some lemon myrtle, the lime slices, and ginger. And I'll throw in a bit of calendula flowers. So I haven't talked too much or any about flowers. And flowers are just a beautiful addition to your tea for color mostly. And you don't need much of them. So the same with rose petals. Rose petals lend very well to black tea because the color is really contrasted. It's gorgeous. The smell is amazing. And you don't need very many because what you're going to be doing is chopping those up. And so that's what I will be doing now. So I will be using a green tea as my base. So ideally, when you're making a blend with tea and having other ingredients, then your tea is going to be about half of your blend. So I'm going to just make enough tea for a 2-cup pot. That's going to be about 10 grams. So that's not very much. But when you found a blend that you like, it's really good to go and make 50 grams at a time or 100 grams so that you can use those multiples a bit easier to make more. Rather than doing like say 7 grams or 8 grams, then that's going to be a bit hard. So in the end, it's a formula. Each ingredient is a certain amount of grams in your blend. So ideally your base tea is half of your blend and the other ingredients make up the other half. So I will be having 4 other ingredients here, and those are going to be divided into that half, that 50%. And when you talk about how much of each you want, it basically depends on your flavoring. So if you like a really strong ginger flavor, add a bit more ginger, but knowing that ginger is quite potent. So that is going, and it's also heavy. So 3 grams of that ginger is going to be about equal to maybe 5 or 6 grams of the lemon myrtle, because the lemon myrtle is a lot lighter. So again, it's really just knowing the flavors of your ingredients before you start blending, and then knowing how much of that flavor you want to come out in your blend. So ideally, when you make a blend, it's going to be a beautiful balanced blend. You're going to taste every ingredient at some point in your drinking of it, and that's because each ingredient is a different note in that blend. So a bit complicated, but it's just going to be more trial and error of anything. So what we'll do is measure out. So if I'm doing 10 grams of tea in total, I'm going to measure out 5 grams of my green tea. And again, this is a bit of a larger leaf, so my other ingredients can be a bit large itself. So I measured out my 5 grams, and I'm putting that in my bowl, which is going to be my final mixing bowl. Now, where other ingredients are going to be my lemon myrtle, lime, calendula, and my ginger. So I'll start with ginger. And I'm just going to make a bit of a guess here and say I'll put in 2 grams of ginger. So we want to measure out, that's 1 piece is already 1 gram. So that's 1.5. We'll do another small one. That's not quite there. And then we will put in 1 more small one, and there we go. That's 2 grams. So because these are large pieces, we have to make those pieces smaller to be able to blend in. And again, this is where, food processor or my Mezzaluna blade comes in handy. But what I find with ginger is quite fibrous, and it's quite hard to actually chop up in a food processor because those fibers hold it together. So it's a bit more time consuming, takes a bit more muscle power, but in the end you get a much better size and texture when you're actually chopping it by hand. So once we do that little bit there, we can add that to our green tea. And the Metaluna blades are great because this is a double blade and they actually do a lot of work in a shorter amount of time than just using a knife. A mortar and pestle is good for some things, but I don't find it's very good for ginger. So I'm just going to add that into my bowl with my green tea. I just need to measure the weight of a slice of this lime. That's 1.5 grams, and then we will add some of the lemon myrtle and our calendula after that. So we're just slicing this up, and the lime actually is probably better if you use the blade to chop that up. You can try it in the food processor. Sometimes if you are using only the peel, I find that it's a bit hard to not get dust when you're chopping it up in the food processor. So it's not as regular of a size. There we go. So we chop that up a bit. We add that to our other ingredients. So now we're just going to take about 1 gram of our lemon myrtle, and there we go. And then we will end, because tea is actually a good thing to take a moment in your day to enjoy. And with tea, it starts with the visual, what it looks like, then what it smells like, and then what it tastes like. So if you notice those things in your day when you're enjoying your cuppa, then it's actually going to be quite a more relaxing experience for you. And now we'll take 0.5 gram of our calendula, because we only did 1.5 grams of our lime. And again, 0.5 gram of flower petals is actually quite a lot. So now we'll add that. We won't really need to do any chopping with that because they are quite separate. So we will now do our mixing of our blend. And this is a very, very rough blend, but it's, for home purposes, it's perfect. So look at those colors. You have light green, you have dark green, you have your yellows, you have your pale creamy whites. Gorgeous, gorgeous, and the smell is amazing. So when you're making a cup of tea or a pot of tea, the general rule is to add 1 teaspoon of tea per cup. So we're talking about 150 ml cup, not a mug, which is more of a 250 mils. And when you're dealing with green tea, it's very, very important not to use boiling water. But if the water has boiled, then you just let it cool down before adding it. So ideally for green tea, you need about 80, 85 degree water. And that's because the tea leaves are not processed. They're harvested and they're immediately dried with heat, and that stops any oxidation, and the oxidation is what turns a tea black. So black tea is fine to use boiling water because it's they have been oxidized, they've dried longer. But with green tea leaves are a lot more fragile and a bit more fresh, and that the same goes for your white tea. So what we have now, we have a teapot here, and I'd say this is about a 3 to 4 cups. So we'll just start adding our loose blend into our teapot. So that's 1 teaspoon, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and let's just add it all in. That's 5 teaspoons, and that will be fine. And again, it's just rough measurements. It depends, again, on your taste. With green tea, it's brewing time is between 2 to 3 minutes. And again, that's more of to not get that bitterness from the leaves from steeping. So if you use black tea, that can brew for 3 to 4 minutes. And if you want a stronger tea, it's not ideal to actually let it brew longer. The most ideal is going to be to use more tea, because in the end, if you're letting it steep longer, the hot water is going to retract more of the caffeine, which causes the bitterness in the tea. So the longer you steep a tea, then the more it's going to be bitter. So if you want a perfect cuppa, 2 to 3 minutes for green tea, not boiling water. Black teas, 3 to 4 minutes, boiling water. And if you're going herbal, no caffeine, 3 to 4 minutes with that, and that's boiling water as well. All right, our tea should be ready now. So let's go pouring that into our cups. And I'm pouring a cup for Robin as well, so she can enjoy her garden. Oh, it smells beautiful. Beautiful. All right, Robin. Enjoy. Thank you so much for inviting me to come into your garden. It's beautiful.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure and a delight to see how you blend teas and mixing those flavours.
Oh, thank you.
Because I haven't done that before.
No, and that's something that, yes, is a craft, actually.
It is.
So cheers.
Oh.
That is nice. It just really is grounding and just very... Oh, nice.
That is beautiful. Thank you,
That is
Monica.
good. You're welcome. Thank you.